morning. We've got a great show for you tonight. Welcome to the UU, the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Fayetteville. My name is Dane Wagner. You may have seen me before, and you might not have. I've been a member for a little over a year at this point, and I like small groups, so I know some of you individually, but I don't come to the full service very often, but always glad when I do. UU is a religious tradition that values freedom in religious thought and journey. We uphold the unity of our interconnections, connections to each other, to all of life, and to the precious universe that we are only a small part of. We affirm the universality of love and hope as we journey together in community, and we welcome you, whoever you are, in this moment, and wherever you are in your spiritual journey. For those of you joining us online, welcome. If you're new, please check out our website, uufayetteville.org, for more information. For those of you visiting us for the first time in person, you'll find the white card, a visitor information card in the seat back in front of you. If you fill that out, you can get on our email list and hear a lot about all of the cool events that we have going on. I will talk about a few of those at the end during announcements. We're doing the stone service today, yes? No. Okay. If you have a joy or concern you'd like to share, you can fill out one of the yellow cards, but we're not doing the joys and concerns discussion today during the service. You can mark on there if you want it to be confidential and shared with leadership. And I think there's a box outside that you can drop those in. You could do that before the service. It's too late for that, obviously, but you could do it after the service as well. And those will be read. If you have need for hearing assistance, our AV tech, David, in the back can help you with that. And children are always welcome in our service, but there is a staffed nursery available downstairs if that would work better for either of you. Please remember to silence your cell phones as we enter into our service. And our service this week is being done by a dear friend of mine, Dustin, who I have learned quite a lot from. And I think he has managed to squeeze down some of his wisdom into a consumable piece. So I'm really looking forward to it. And I think a lot of the things that he's taught me and that he has had to say, not necessarily original, but apply to our everyday lives, things that were written thousands of years ago. But have really made an impact on my life, and I guess that's it. Lighting? It's been a while.
Dear ones, let's light our chalice together today by saying love is the spirit and its community, and service is its prayer, to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and truth, and to help one another. Thus do we covenant together.
Good morning. I guess I should start by assuring you all my wisdom is stolen. It's not mine. Hi, my name is Dustin. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for listening to me speak about one of my favorite things to think about, Stoicism. The ancient people all across the globe all kind of figured out the same thing. Not all ways of being are equally comfortable. Not all lives lived are equally comfortable. Sometimes this is because of factors outside of our control, and we need a way to deal with that. Sometimes it's because of factors that are within our control, And we need a way to deal with that also. This was precisely the role of philosophy in ancient Greece. For them, philosophy was the art of living a wise life. And okay, sure, it sounds good and dandy to want to live a wise life, but what does that actually look like? What are these specifics? Well, several schools of philosophy emerged as an honest attempt to answer that question, how ought we live wisely? For the Stoics, the answer was to always remember that we're making choices and to monitor those choices carefully. This is what my favorite Stoic teacher, Epictetus, said would happen for those who followed this philosophy. Quote, "No one will ever put pressure on you. No one will impede you. You will not be disappointed with anyone. You will not blame anyone. You will not do a single thing reluctantly. No one will harm you. You will have no enemy because nothing harmful will happen to you." End quote. Powerful claims. And that's exactly what I'm here to talk about with you today. I also wanted to mention that I thought it would be fun to give all of you the opportunity to ask me questions. So feel free to use your order of service. Jot down any questions that you come up with while I'm talking, and then about 15 minutes after service ends, I'll be back up here to answer any questions that y'all think of. And I did make a pot of coffee, so join me for that. And again, thank you for having me.
Our opening hymn today is "To See the World," and the words are by William Blake. Please rise as you are able in body or spirit. Time. You may be seated.
I apologize. I'm not prepared. There it is. The offering is a sacrament of the Free Church. It's supported by the voluntary generosity of all who join us. The offering will now be given and received in grateful appreciation of our shared hopes and values.
making sure my buttons work. All right, great. Hi, I'm super excited about this. So let's just jump right in. After I gave like a practice presentation to my wife, she said, Dustin, do you realize you never just concisely actually say what Stoicism is? So I quickly added this slide. Like I said, the ancient people were very intimately aware that the world can be a really difficult place to be in sometimes. And they wanted to know what they could actually do to suffer less. Stoicism was trying to answer that call. Stoicism is a set of principles designed to help the follower live a more tranquil life. These principles focus on virtuous behavior, living in accordance with nature, acceptance, and an inward focus. But Stoicism is actually three things. I am going to focus on the last, Stoic ethics, today, but actually Stoicism also focused heavily on logic and physics. So for today's conversation about Stoic ethics, I mostly just wanted you to be aware that the Stoics did try to use the nature of knowledge and the nature of reality to inform that ethical theory. Logic deals with the nature of knowledge. It is an attempt to answer, what do we know, what can we know, and how can we be sure? Like I said, I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time on like formal argumentation or the difference between like validity and soundness. I mostly just wanted you all to be aware that the Stoics spent a lot of time trying to make sure that their reasons were good reasons. They wanted not only to be logical, but to apply that logic consistently. One of the founders actually wrote over 300 books on on logic alone. Physics deals with the structure of the physical world. It's trying to answer what is actually going on here, what are things made of, and how do things work. The most important thing to understand about Stoic physics in terms of today's conversation is probably just the logos. The Stoics believed that the universe was organized in a rational and coherent way by an all-pervasive force called the logos. The logos can be used like the word God. Sometimes it can be used like the universe. But the Stoics did believe that this force was intelligent, good, and most importantly, inside of everything. This view of physics meant that the Stoics were determinists. They believed that everything that happened did so because it was the will of the logos, and that everything that happened was the only thing that could have happened. They saw themselves like a dog tied to a wagon. We are the dog. Fate is the wagon. The dog doesn't know where the wagon is going or why. It only knows that it goes. I like to imagine that the dog actually has a really long leash and the freedom to explore its surrounding environment. But the story goes that the dog can happily walk alongside the wagon, or it can be dragged behind the wagon. Either way, the dog is going where the wagon pulls it. Free will in Stoicism, then, is deciding how do you want to behave while tied to the wagon, and what do you want to do with the amount of leash that you're given. And honestly, that's enough to lead us into ethics, everyone's favorite. There was actually a quote by Marcus Aurelius, a very famous Roman emperor. He was a practitioner of Stoicism and is widely thought of as one of the best emperors Rome ever had. Anyway, he said in a passage where he was listing things he's thankful for, he said, "I thank the gods I didn't become absorbed by logic chopping or preoccupied with physics." So for him, it was about ethics. It was about the proper role of people. Ethics is an attempt to answer all of these questions, but in short, ethics is just, what do I do? Modern Stoic ethics is often split into the three disciplines. They are the discipline of action, the discipline of will, and the discipline of perception. I did include this Venn diagram because I feel like some of the concepts have a little overlap and it's not clearly one or the other. The discipline of action basically asks us for three things. One, to live in accordance with nature. Two, to remember what is ours and what is not ours, called the dichotomy of control. And three, to be virtuous at all times. But what is our nature? According to the Stoics, a huge aspect of our nature is the fact that we are a social species. And as a member of a social species, our roles and obligations are dictated by the relationships that we have with one another. So, being a good friend and being a good father are wildly different social roles, but they're still very important social roles for our species. Being a social species always mandated working for the good of the collective. Part of our nature, according to the Stoics at least, is our share of the logos. Mentioned that earlier. The ancient Stoics believed that it was the logos that allowed us to be logical, rational, and have the ability to make choices. They said that our ability to use our faculty of will is what separates humans from non-human animals and demonstrates our closeness to the divine. The ancient Stoics believed it was divine to be able to think, consider, rationalize, and temper our own impulses. Many modern Stoics do abandon the idea of a literal logos, but they maintain that these meta-cognitive abilities are a deeply important part of what it means to be the human animal. As emperor, Marcus Aurelius was one of the most powerful people on the globe at the time. He could have had anything he wanted. Yet, he said, in a sense, people are our proper occupation. Our job is to do them good and to put up with them. No. He also has a passage about dealing with people's bad breath, so he said a lot. But being good to each other is our job as a member of a social species. This meant that the Stoics were cosmopolitans. They believed that all people were members of a single grander community. All human, all worthy, all valuable. Actually sounds a little UU. So I put the thing up there. Heracles had what he called the circles of concern. It's really, really easy to be concerned with the self, but Heracles said that it was our responsibility to actively work towards increasing our concern to more and more people. From the self, to family, to fellow citizens, to countrymen, and to everyone else. The modern version does do away with citizen and countrymen, and it includes the earth itself. Modern Stoics recognize that the earth is the thing that houses and protects each of the preceding circles. This is the precious web of life that we're all a part of. Also sounds like a bit of a familiar idea. I have mentioned the teacher Epictetus a few times at this point. Born a slave, he served for decades under a cruel master. His name, Epictetus, it's not even a real name. It just means acquired one. He was eventually freed and dedicated his life to teaching Stoicism to others. The dichotomy of control is such an important concept in Stoicism that his Enchiridion literally opens with it. I was going to read this whole thing, but for time's sake, I'll just skip to the summary. What was he saying in this big O thing? What was that about? Basically, everything in the whole universe belongs in either one of two categories. Either it's something in our control, or it's something not in our control. It is, or it isn't. That's the dichotomy. Each of these categories has qualities about them. The things in our control, Epictetus describes them as free. They cannot be hindered by another. They cannot be restrained by another. The things not in our control, Epictetus uses the word slavish. These things can be hindered. They are somebody else's. They can be restrained. Epictetus has a big conclusion. He says, wanting to control something that is someone else's to control is a pathway to suffering. Stoicism says we have exactly one thing actually under our control. Our ability to think thoughts and to make choices. Everything else is something that can be done or taken or changed despite your best efforts. Bodies can be sick, hurt, or born in different ways. Property, lost or broken. Your reputation is fully in the hands of somebody else. You can't think someone else's thoughts. You can't perform their actions. But Epictetus says that yes, you can restrain his body, but not even Zeus is strong enough to overpower his faculty of will. In any moment, he is free to make the best choices he can. In any moment, he can choose how to respond. The final aspect of the discipline of action is the virtues. Stoicism has the 4 cardinal virtues: courage, justice, wisdom, and moderation. Basically, at any moment, if you don't know what to do, be one of these 4 things, and you're probably doing the right thing. The discipline of will is the complement to the discipline of action. Action is about what you can control. The discipline of will is for the things that you cannot control. Sometimes the phrase, the art of acquiescence, is used here. Acquiescence is the acceptance of things without protest. Imagine seeing acceptance as an art form. Another thing often talked about here is the idea of taking advantage of opportunities. Epictetus basically taught that we should not wish for things to happen as we personally want them to. Rather, we should always just hope for things to happen as they're going to happen anyway. In other words, let fate do its thing. And this is how the virtues are used to judge the things beyond our control. And the short answer is they don't. See, Stoicism is a form of virtue ethics. And virtue ethics says that it is one's own character that is the source of morally good and morally bad behavior. I like to say that Stoicism works like a mirror. It's something that you hold up to get a better look at yourself. It is not a microscope. It's not meant to be something you put under others under. Marcus Aurelius said, strict with the self, tolerant with others. The word that the Stoics use for judging things beyond our control isn't good, it isn't bad. The word they use is indifference. The weather may be destructive, but it is intended to be viewed with moral indifference. Wolf packs may be violent, but they are intended to be viewed with moral indifference. this does have an interesting consequence, though it is admittedly a little bit harder of a pill to swallow sometimes. Just like the weather, and just like wolf packs, the actions of other humans is to be viewed with moral indifference. The Stoics believed that others could not cause them harm. Granted, harm is being used as a technical term here. We're not saying others can't inflict pain. But because the only good is making virtuous decisions, that means that the only harm would be forcing somebody else not to make virtuous decisions. Here's the same idea, but Marcus Aurelius put it together with some beauty. He said, when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they can't tell good from evil. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and so none of them can hurt me. No one can implicate me in ugliness. I liked that last line so much I put it on the screen twice. You can't implicate me in ugliness. Marcus Aurelius makes it clear. None of them can hurt me because none of them can force me to be as ugly as they are. No one can force you to harm your own character. Marcus Aurelius also said, the best revenge is to not be like that. So, one of the ways we can view the things we can't control is with indifference. Basically, you do you, I'm going to do me. The other way we can view the things beyond our control is as an opportunity. The virtues are not meant to be ideas that you generally agree with in theory. They are things that you go out and do. Virtue cannot exist inside of a vacuum. Without things and people to be afraid of, there is no way to do courage. Without things and people to tempt us, there is no way to do temperance. If I were to just come up and ask you, hey, when challenging things happen, would you like to be the kind of person who responds with grace, creativity, love, and kindness? I bet most of us would say yes. But how can we be good at responding to things without having the opportunity to respond to things? So, let's say you encounter a rude person, something outside of your control. You can think to yourself, oh good, this is my opportunity to practice being nice in a challenging situation. And finally, the discipline of perception. How you see things, how you think. The goal here is to honestly try to see things as they actually are. The Stoics try to be objective and dispassionate, logical and consistent. The Stoics believed that the way you thought was what determined how you felt. They even had a full theory of cognition to explain it. I did make this, so it's a little cartoony, but I think it does a good job showing how things in our environment become emotions within our minds. Here, I show the faculty of will as an input-output machine. And it has all those cogs. Imagine that each cog in that machine plays a deeply important role and changes what the output's going to be. But I am getting a little ahead of myself, so here's how it works according to the Stoics. Objects in our environment are constantly bombarding our senses with information. This is then sent to the brain where a mental impression is created. The Greeks used the word fantasia. This initial mental impression is fed into the faculty of will, and my word logos got cut off, but again, this is your piece of the logos, this is your piece of the divine. So the mental impression zips around all of these cogs, and a perception is spit out. The Greeks used the word hypolepsis. This is a blue triangle. So the mind thinking it is feeling happiness. If this had been a red triangle, this person would have felt sadness. That's just the relationship between emotions and perceptions. So your perceptions dictate your emotions, and your faculty of will dictates your perception. Here is a closer look at that input-output machine I was telling you about. Take a moment and notice what the cogs actually are. Again, Epictetus says that the faculty of will is the only thing in the universe that we can actually fully control. He says this is who we are. We are a series of decisions. The Greek hegemonikon literally translates as that which guides, but can be translated as will or character. I was recently talking with a group of friends, and I realized that our emotions are a dependent variable. In the same way, you can't really walk up to a plant and say, grow, plant, grow, and expect our wanting to be enough to cause the growth. We actually just can't say, happiness activate, and expect our emotions to fall into place just because we want them to. But we can influence plant growth, right? We can change the amount of water, fertilizer, etc. In the same way, we can monitor the opinions we hold. We can notice when we're telling ourselves a story, and we can guide that story towards truth and virtue. We can notice when we're making a value judgment, and we can ask questions about it. Do I really think this? Is this fair? Is this consistent with my values? The Stoics also talk about monitoring our desires. Desires is a technical term. A desire is something you judge to be good and actively work towards obtaining. Aversions are just the opposite. They are things that we judge to be bad and actively work to avoid happening. We can control our goals and the intensity we use to advance them. The idea is that doing those things should impact the way you feel. Earlier, I told you that I liked the phrase, the stories we tell ourselves. Imagine for a moment that you're driving home after a long day. Big truck, swerves, cuts you off, speeds away. Imagine having these thoughts. That jerk. I just don't want to be around bad drivers. I just want people to pay attention. Clearly a bad person. These thoughts work together to form a story, and that story is the thing that your emotions are responding to. Tell an angry story, feel anger. Each of these is a cog in that machine I was telling you about. This is an opinion. This is an aversion, a desire, and a value judgment. Notice also who all of these thoughts are centered on. Someone else. Each one of these is about something we have no control over. When Epictetus said that focusing on things outside of our control is a pathway to suffering, this is what it looks like. Now, look at the middle story. This is a different opinion. Everyone makes mistakes, me too. A different aversion. I don't want to lose focus on the road. A different desire. I want to keep a level head in scary moments. And a different value judgment. With this many people on the road, this was inevitable. These tranquil thoughts focus on what is within our control, accepting our shared human nature, maintaining focus, and not exploding on people. They cause a tranquil feeling in the person thinking them. My actual go-to story I tell myself for maintaining my emotions on the road is like, man, that guy really needs to pee. And having that amusing thought makes me feel amused. I can get cut off, no anger, amusement, because of the story I tell myself. I do like how Epictetus puts it. He said, it's not things that upset us, but our judgments about those things. But I really like how Marcus Aurelius put it. He said, choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been. However, it is a misconception that the Stoics were trying to be unfeeling. Actually, they acknowledge that a normal, natural part of being a human is having random or intrusive thoughts and spontaneous emotion. This class of experience are called proto-passions. When you say, the thought that jerk just popped into my head and I didn't control it and it made me mad and I didn't control that either, the Stoics know that that happens and they agree that that's part of life. But one of the goals of Stoicism is to recognize our own thoughts and reflexes as things that can be evaluated. The goal was not to be perfect at this. It was just to improve the skill of monitoring your own thoughts. The Stoics are not asking you to ignore your feelings. Rather, you're being asked to embrace them and ask them questions. What opinion, judgment, or thought is causing this feeling? Is this thought true? Is it in line with my values? When that jerk pops into your mind, do you assume that you're right and that he is in fact a jerk and that you're actually correct to be as upset as you are? Or do you take a second and pause and say, whoa, hold on a second, brain. I'm sure he's not a jerk. That just startled me, and I'm okay. And that's basically it for Stoic ethics. Marcus Aurelius had an entry in his Meditations that sums it up, I think, pretty well. Here's the full entry. Objective judgment, now, at this very moment. Unselfish action, now, at this very moment. Willing acceptance, now, at this moment of all external events. That is all you need. Thank you.
Wow. Okay, so I have 800 questions, and I'll bring those back. Wow. Okay, yeah, I'm not over it. Let's sing about it. There is a new hymnal. The UUs have a new hymnal. I think I've told you about this. It is a virtual hymnal. I know, which means that every single song out of both of our existing hymnals, plus a bunch of new songs, are going to be available in this virtual hymnal in every single key, with accompaniment for guitar and piano. I know, I'm serious. And with PDFs that you can project. So now when I hear people, and I also feel, I always want the music. I read music better than I read English, and I always want the music in front of me, and now we can always have the music in front of us. So it's all very exciting for a low monthly subscription fee. Anyway, I want to teach you this one. This is, I thought that this would work well for Stoicism. And, but after hearing it, maybe it doesn't. But, you know, you all will be the judge of that. Let me sing it to you once. What we need is here. What we need is here. Simple, right? Let's all rise as you're willing, embody your spirit, and let's sing it 3 times, and we'll use it sort of like a little meditative chant. Go ahead, Brenda, let's play it through for us. Last time. What we need is here. What we need is here. Except Logos. Anyway, you may be seated. Seriously, Dustin? My mind's going to be going for a long time with this. Seriously, because there's so many of our like typical things that we see on TikTok, or you know, there's a lot of this everywhere. I took an entire page and a half of notes. Let's extinguish the chalice together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
So first and foremost, I do think that closing hymn worked great. Thank you. I think that the Stoics may have said, what do you need? You need you. And here you are. So I think it worked great. I had seriously considered wearing my Stoicism hoodie today, but it is hot. And I didn't want to be hot and nervous, and you're going to be like, Stoicism makes people sweaty. So I chose to just hold it instead. When I bought this, I knew what all of the virtues were. You know, over here is the lion of courage. And I had seen that plenty of times. I knew what that was. Easy. The owl of wisdom. Wise owls, that's part of something, that's great. The scales of justice, beautiful. The last one I didn't know. I guess I assumed it was the discipline shrub. I had to look it up. This is a lotus flower. I guess that lotus flowers really like to grow in stagnant, muddy, nasty water, and that kind of makes the perfect place for them. Yet, despite being surrounded and born around all of this mud and filth, the lotus flower grows on these long stems and rises above the muddy waters. Friends, the muddy waters are our shared human experience. We all get hurt. We all have intrusive thoughts. We all forget to silence our cell phones. It's hard being an animal on a planet sometimes, and it feels like the water just keeps getting muddier and muddier. But we can be like the lotus flower and rise above the mud and be a beacon of beauty anyways. Thank you again.